Hi there, everyone. I am Heron Davidson. You can just call me Heron, or honestly, whatever you want. Doesn't bother me that much. Nice to meet you all, even though we'll probably never formally meet, for the most part. I am from Spokane, Washington. Was born and raised. Haven't really lived for extended periods of time anywhere else. Except for a couple months in Peru, but that's not really part of the point. Life goals and education. Let's see. Uh, Preferably, I'd like to finish out my degree at SFCC and then move on to completing my bachelor's in psychology. And while I'm working on my master's, probably and hopefully be able to work as a counselor for a local high school, not in Spokane, but where ever the master's program will be taking place. After that, moving on to something in psychology, I'm hoping, well, words are hard and weird, to be a counselor of some sort, whether it be family therapy or social work of some kind. I think that will definitely be uh, a suitable place for me and my set skills. Um, my culture and my definition of it. Honestly, I never really gave it too much thought for the most part. I guess it does help to mention that the fact that I did live in Peru, I was working with a non-government organization called Wind Aid, just building wind turbines for low-income communities. Um, and there I got to live and work with people from all around the world, from China, uh, Scotland, Ireland, Trinidad and Tobago, Sweden, France, Italy, everywhere. The only other American, funny enough, was there for the first 2 weeks and lived in Nine Mile Falls, so small world, isn't it? Um, but culture to me, it's tough being in the melting pot of the world that America really is when you get down to it. Um, it's cultures as defined in the book are really sort of any in group that you might have a set uh, um, amount of expectations or the way you interact with other people. Um, so everyone fulfills that. People are coworkers, they're family members, they're students, and oftentimes they're mentors, teachers, everything. My culture really, being a Caucasian male, it's it's a big part of the overall demographic of this country, and one that has had a lot of um, spot in the limelight from media, books, movies, and I'm very thankful that over the past decades, um, that other cultures are really starting to shine and get their voices out there heard, because variety is the spice of life, and it's amazing hearing what other people experience that you have no idea that goes on in their lives. Um, and you can get trapped in your own beliefs and way of thinking, and it can be a trap. That's about as much as I can really put it politely, for a school setting. But and which brings me to my next point of what I'm hoping to learn in this class, and that's um, a apart from being able to communicate successfully in general, I don't think I've ever really had an issue, but giving yourself a sort of guideline for it never really hurts. Um, I'd like to understand better how to understand, if that makes sense. Getting to know how other cultures react to certain situations that differ from ours, that, you know, ways that we couldn't even imagine, because that's just not the norm for us. Whether it be someone from a different country, a different sexual orientation, ethnicity, gender, or someone from a different economical class. Everything gives you a different perspective, and understanding that is key to becoming a well-rounded human being. Um, and I think that helps lead me into the next question, which is the most important idea or concept in this chapter. And apart from the 8 components of communication and what makes communication successful, the anatomy of a conversation, really, whether it be in person, text, through an ad, or art. Um, Besides that, I think that the one of the most important takeaways and essential takeaways is that every single culture in one way or another is connected, uh, whether that be positive or negative or neutral. We share things that we often take for granted, and as much as cultures can differ, a lot of their ideas stay the same, and the variation comes from how they go about reacting to those different situations. But I think that is one of the most important ideas, is that no matter how separate we believe we are, in the end, there's always going to be, the red string connecting all the dots to us. And that's paramount in loving and caring for and accepting other human beings, because we're not all that different in the end. We're really not. Uh, I think a question I really like to dig into with you guys, and it's one that I put into my paper one reflection, was how you identify yourselves. I've known most of my life the people, they when you ask them, um, their background or anything, they'll start rifling off. Oh, I'm Scottish, Irish, French, German, with a little bit of Sicilian. I myself am Yugoslavian, which isn't even a country anymore. So does that really constitute part of part of a background, a heritage? I mean, obviously it does, but is it as valid as someone who uh, has grown up in the United States, uh, being Chinese, or coming from an Indian background? And they I can't say they, for the most part, if you ask someone who isn't a Caucasian American what their background is, they'll just tell you one or two things. We white Americans tend to um, push back against being considered American as their blood heritage. We like to go past that and before. And that was something that I was made aware of, that I didn't even notice that I did until I met so many other people from different communities and different cultures all around the world, and I got a little bit of teasing about it, that the only people that they have met who do that are Americans. And I was curious about if you guys have any notions as to why that is, or if you've even noticed it, because I certainly didn't. Why we tend to distance ourselves from being called American, or having that be our regional or blood background. So I was just curious, and I'm sorry if the way I put things might have offended anyone. That's was not my intention at all. I'm kind of going off the top of my head here, but yeah, if you guys had um, any notions or trains of thought on that, I'd love to hear them, because hearing everybody's perspective is dire to the world, and becoming a better place and a better person. So thank you guys so much for listening to me ramble for, holy crap, 10 minutes to 11 minutes, for that long. And I look forward to not only hearing your responses, but responding to you guys as what your thoughts are, what your backgrounds, who you are as people. That's always been fascinating to me. So once again, I apologize if I said anything that might have come across as insensitive. It was not my intention whatsoever. But thank you guys very much for listening, and I hope you guys have a great weekend. Well, it's my weekend, not your weekend. Anyway, have a great day.